You know, when we hear the word holiness, it can sound, well, a little intimidating, can it? Maybe it brings to mind a long list of impossible rules. But what if we thought about it in a totally different way? Not as a checklist, but as a transformative journey. So let's dive into what it practically means to live a holy life. I love this because it really captures the whole idea. Holy living isn't some destination you just arrive at overnight. Nope, it's a path we walk, a process of change that starts way down deep inside of us and slowly works its way out. So come on, let's explore what that journey actually looks like, step by step. All right, so where in the world does a journey like this even begin? Well, it all starts with understanding the call. We really have to get the why behind this whole idea of holiness before we can ever get to the how. And here it is, the absolute core of it, straight from Scripture. This isn't just, a friendly suggestion, it's a command, and it frames holiness as a reflection of God's own character. So the standard isn't some impossible human ideal of perfection, it's God's own nature. To really get this, we've got to go back to the original Hebrew word, kodesh. It means apartness, sacredness, separateness. So here's the big takeaway. Holiness isn't just about being a good person. It's about being set apart for God, dedicated to his very specific divine purpose. Okay, so if we're called to be set apart, how does that actually happen? Well, it absolutely has to start on the inside. It's all about an inner transformation that begins with our hearts and, maybe most importantly, our minds. This verse from Romans is absolutely key. See, it puts two ideas against each other, being conformed to the world's way of thinking versus being transformed by a renewed mind. This tells us that real, lasting change isn't just about trying to act better. It's about fundamentally rewiring the way we think. And think about it. In our world today, what shapes our thinking more than media? The music we listen to, the shows we watch, the feeds we scroll through, all of it is constantly pushing a worldview on us. Holy living means we have to be intentional, kind of like gatekeepers for our own minds. So, what happens when your mind is renewed? You get a renewed heart, and that leads directly to a change in your attitude, your entire disposition. The goal isn't just to have different thoughts, but for those thoughts to actually produce a genuine, Christ-like attitude that other people can actually see. And this is what that attitude looks like in practice. The fruits of the Spirit from Galatians. These aren't things you can just force. You can't just grit your teeth and decide, okay, I'm going to be more patient now, right? No, they are the natural result, the fruit, that grows from a heart that's truly being changed from the inside out. Okay, so we've nailed down that holiness starts on the inside. So now let's talk about the exciting part, how that inner transformation can't help but become visible on the outside through what we do and the choices we make. Man, this is such a powerful idea. The concept that our physical bodies aren't just ours, but that they are temples, sacred spaces. That completely reframes how we think about our physical choices, doesn't it? Honoring God suddenly becomes a very physical act. Now, of course, people have different views on Old Testament dietary laws today, but what's shown here illustrates a really powerful principle that still applies. It's this idea of discernment, of making mindful, intentional choices about what we consume, because we recognize that it impacts the temple. And hey, what comes out of us is just as important as what goes in. This comparison is so practical. Our words have the power to tear people down or to build them up. Holy living calls us to consciously choose speech that encourages, that heals, and that blesses others. And of course, the real proving ground for our faith is in our relationships, right? Our friendships, our family, our marriages. These are the main places where a transformed heart becomes visible through things like patience and love and service. So what does this look like day to day? Because this isn't just a Sunday thing. Let's bring this whole concept right down to earth, to the places we spend most of our time, our jobs, our schools, and yeah, even how we handle our money. Oof, this is a question that can make us squirm a little, can't it? But it's so important. Because how we manage the resources we've been given, it says a lot about our real priorities and where we are on our spiritual walk. And this right here is the key shift in perspective. It's a game changer. When we stop seeing money as just ours and start seeing ourselves as stewards, as managers of God's resources, then things like budgeting, saving, and giving become actual acts of worship. And here are 3 super practical, actionable steps for what that stewardship looks like. 1. Giving first to honor God. 2. Living within our means to stay out of the bondage of debt. And 3. Practicing generosity. Just cultivating that spirit of giving to others. Now, as we start to wrap this up, it is so important that we circle back to where we started. Remember, holiness is not a destination. It's not about achieving perfection on our own. It is a lifelong journey. And this verse, this is the best news of all. It's the ultimate encouragement. This whole journey isn't something we have to do in our own strength. It's a work that God Himself starts in us, and He promises to see it all the way through to the end. So all that pressure to be perfect, it's off. This image just says it all, doesn't it? The path might be long, it might be winding, but the key is to just keep moving forward. It's not about never stumbling. It's about getting back up, taking that next step, and trusting that God is the one guiding the way. So I'll leave you with this to think about. After everything we've talked about, what's one small, practical step, whether it's in your thoughts, your words, or your actions, that you can take on your journey toward holy living starting today?